Hey, it's Jason Hartman, the empowered investor. And this is the intro portion for podcast, Creating Wealth podcast, episode number 1768. Thought I would do it as a quick video for you as well. We have an awesome case study today. And I love it when we do these client case studies because it is so cool to share a story of a real estate investor who has just done amazing things. Now, let me tell you about Winston. This guy is awesome. Here's a picture of him at our last collective mastermind event, where we had a beautiful luncheon at the home of Robert Kiyosaki, of course, the Rich Dad Poor Dad author of that whole series. And Winston was there because he's a member of the collective mastermind. And we had a cocktail reception 2 nights before this at the same event. And he shared with me that in the last year, he was earning just from one dimension of his real estate portfolio. And I've taught you over the years that income property is a multi-dimensional asset class. So we earn return on investment in many ways. So many investments, as they call them, I think they're really speculations, are just one dimensional. For example, non-dividend paying stock. The whole strategy is buy low, sell high. Precious metals, buy low, sell high. Cryptocurrencies, buy low, sell high, right? One dimensional asset classes. Now, I know there are some creative things you can do with all of these, especially the crypto assets, but by and large, it's a buy low, sell high strategy. That's really the major game that most people are playing. Yes, there are some esoteric things you can do. I understand that. But income property, we earn return on investment from so many aspects. On this case study with Winston, a great real estate investor who did not learn how to read until he was 30 years old. Okay. But he started buying properties before that, right? So if you think you don't have a head start, right? Listen to this guy's story. It's amazing. I mean, just an incredible story. So Winston shared with me that from just appreciation on his properties, he earned last year about $550 per hour, every hour of every day. And we were at that cocktail reception for about 2.5 hours. So Winston earned about $1,300, well, more than $1,300 at that cocktail reception that we had the first night of the collective mastermind event. And this is including sleeping hours. So a truly remarkable asset class. Okay, let's dive into it. I want to give you a little bit of a secret as to how he did this before you hear the story right from him. So, of course, he's a member of the collective mastermind group. He's also a member of our empowered investor inner circle. He is a giver. He really shares a lot of great information about what he's doing in the Empowered Investor Inner Circle, and we really appreciate having Winston in there. So here's an example. This is not Winston's example, but I just want to give you some very realistic examples of the kind of return you can earn with your income property portfolio. Very realistically. So just on a very modest $1 million real estate portfolio, I mean, think about that. Nowadays, that is not much, given that the dollar has been debased, it has been inflated away. $1 million ain't what it used to be, for sure. But say, for example, you own 4 single-family rental homes that are worth $250,000 each. So that's a $1 million portfolio. And hopefully, you either put down just 20% on those properties, so your equity position is $200,000, or you followed my strategy that I've been teaching for many years, which is to constantly engage in what I call equity stripping. And you're stripping out the equity from the properties so that you are making that money work for you. You don't want a bunch of equity sitting in properties. It becomes lazy money. It becomes sleepy money. It's not doing anything. There's a metric in income property, especially used in commercial real estate, that I think is a faulty metric, a very misleading metric. It's called return on equity. Why do I think return on equity is bogus? It's BS. It's not even real. It is because you get the same return without measuring equity. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the return on equity is a metric that does signify how much return you're getting on your leverage. And hopefully, you're using a lot of leverage, because that is the most prudent thing to do. It accelerates wealth creation and it reduces risk as long as you're using it prudently. Okay, so you've got $200,000 equity in this portfolio. Remember, the beautiful thing about income property is you can be a lot bigger than you really are. Well, I remember when I was a kid and I would stand on the sidewalk, and if the sun was behind me, I would, maybe I'm 3 feet tall as a kid, but I would look at the shadow cast, and the shadow is 9 feet tall. So, literally, because of the sun being behind me, the light behind me, it increases my size. It made me bigger than I was. And that's what leverage does for us with income property. It makes us bigger than we are, so we can control more property, we can do more. So, this very modest example of just a $1 million portfolio with $200,000 in equity. Now, last year, we had a pretty amazing year in the real estate world. Obviously, the central banks and the governments around the world are loosening the money supply. They're turning on the printing press, as you will. That's a bit of a metaphor, obviously, because most money is created, well, it's created by lending. It's lent into existence. It's created electronically, in essence. So it was a pretty amazing year. But in most years, it won't be like this. But still, it's pretty awesome. Remember, we're just talking about one metric with Winston in this case study that's coming right up. Okay, $1 million portfolio, 17% appreciation, $170,000. 365 days in the year, that's $466 per day, or $19 per hour, every hour, right? Yeah, you're thinking no big deal, but that money does come in when you sleep. See, you are earning beyond your own efforts. You are using OPM, other people's money, and other people's efforts, because what is going into this whole equation? Well, it's your renters are working for you. 33 to 40% of their income is given to you every month. And I say that because that's the typical debt ratio with a renter, right? If you're going to rent to a house, you don't want them renting your house if the rent is more than 40% of their income. And ideally, you're going to scale that back and have it not be more than a third of their income. So think about it. In every month, the first 10 to maybe 14 days of the month, the renter is working for you. After that, they are working for themselves. Well, and the government, sadly, right? Because that's the amount of rent they're typically paying you. It's truly an amazing equation. Okay, let's look at the same thing by adding 10, a $10 million portfolio. And keep in mind, some of you are thinking, $10 million, that's a lot. Well, not really. Like the saying goes, most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and drastically underestimate what they can do in 5 years or 10 years. They totally underestimate it. This $10 million portfolio only requires about $2 million in equity, right? So you can leverage it. You can buy a lot more. And remember, when you get into this world of buying more and more properties, the properties themselves become the qualifiers for your financing, not you, not your job personally. Okay, let's look at this example. So again, it was an uncommon great year in the last year, right? It's not normally going to happen, certainly. Normally, most economists would say, and most real estate market experts would say, that the typical appreciation rate for real estate is about 6%. About 6%. Okay. But again, Winston and I were talking about the last year, and that's what the case study is about. Before that, he made less. But remember, we're only talking about one dimension. We didn't include tax benefits. We didn't include all of the other things that make income property so great. But in this example, 17%, 1.7 million per year in just one mention, only appreciation, divide by 365 days in a year, you're making almost $4,700 per day, almost $200 per hour on this portfolio. Wow. Truly, truly incredible. Not to mention all of the other areas where you get return on investment. But one thing you must do is you must set up structures to protect your assets. And folks, this is one of those things that is very easy to do. It's very inexpensive to do, but it's one of those areas in life where you must do it well in advance. And it can create huge tax benefits, huge estate planning benefits, and huge asset protection benefits for you. So do this now. We've got a great free web class that can teach you how to do it. And the attorney who teaches that class makes a very economical, very inexpensive, you won't believe it, offer at the end if you want to pursue it. But if you don't, you'll learn a lot from the class. So just go to jasonhartman.com/protect and check out that free class, jasonhartman.com/protect. It's about 90 minutes long. You're going to learn a lot of stuff. Definitely check it out. And if you want to reach out to us, just in the US, you can dial us up at 1-800-HARTMAN, 1-800-HARTMAN in the US only. And around the world, jasonhartman.com. We're happy to help you. Now, let's get into this case study with Winston. You are going to be amazed at what this guy did, not having any advantages in life. I bet where you are now, certainly, or where you started, is much further ahead of where Winston started. And he has built this huge real estate portfolio, about 150 units or so, and just done some awesome things. And every hour of every day in the last year, just from one dimension alone, only appreciation, he earned about $550 per hour from his portfolio. We're going to go into it. We're going to look at spreadsheets. You're going to see how he did it. If you're only watching the video, the details of this are on the podcast. We will get it on the YouTube channel in the future. But for today, it's on the podcast. So be sure to check out the Creating Wealth podcast, or just type Jason Hartman wherever you get your podcast and it'll come up for you. All right, here we go to Winston.